Here in Winchester, Indiana, stands the Randolph Infirmary. Built in 1899, this 50,000 square foot building took care of the mentally and physically disabled, single mothers, orphans, the elderly, and sometimes prisoners. Nearly 200 deaths occurred during its operation, and the bodies were buried on site. Most of the deaths were contributed to tuberculosis. There are also stories of murder, as a resident was pushed out of a second-story window, and a reported suicide by hanging. If that wasn't enough, an actual mummy was also buried on site. It was said if you came to the Randolph Infirmary, you would usually leave in a pine box. A representative from our Haunted Grounds team met up with mechanical and maintenance tech Tim Murphy to get an insider's tour of one of Indiana's most haunted places.
That white building you were doing out there was a slaughterhouse, okay? They would bring the meat in here and cut it up. We got meat hooks up there, okay? Back in the early 1900s, there was a cholera epidemic around here, okay? And the coroner and the funeral homes couldn't keep up with all the people that were dying, okay? So they brought an embalming table out here. But they were, you know, this is the butcher room, meat house, you know? Right. And it's kind of weird that they were embalming the people that were dying from cholera. You get it in the morning, you're dead by night. They basically stacked them right here. And they were just picking them up and putting them on the table and embalming them. And then there were 3 people one day they couldn't get done. They were just too tired, they had to go. So they actually wrapped them up in meat paper and put the 3 bodies right in here, right there on them 3 shelves. And then a few people come down with cholera the next day. The bodies were on this side, the food was on this side. Every now and then, they would send the patients or inmates or residents down here, and you know, some of them were not there, you know? Right. So if you look here, there's all kinds of nails hammered in here, all right? And if you look here, there's all kinds of screws here and there and all along the thing, right, just to give them something to do. They would, and that's not the screw gun, that's right, screwing them in. Back when this part was built, you had people here that were feral. There were wild people back then, or people that were living out they had to catch them, and they brought them in here, and in here, there was actually a jail cell. And they would bring them in here, and they would hose them down. Up here in the front where the witches' hats are at, up on top, they say that there used to be shackles right there and right there. In this room, there was a lady that, her name was Ida Gunkel, okay? And in 1939, she was here. Sometimes she would get out of hand because she had that messed with your brain. And she asked for, her bed was right here, and she asked for a broom to sweep out, okay? And her bed was right there, and she put the broom up here. And from the bedding, the ticking of the bedding, she ripped it off and made a noose out of it. So she hung herself right here. There was a lady, her name was Doris Addington. When she was 11 years old, she was dropped off here because her parents died and she had 2 older sisters. But Doris, when she was 9 years old, got kicked in the head by a mule. So her speech wasn't right. And her sisters thought, you know, well, back then, we don't want a retarded sister. it's easier for us to get adopted if she wasn't here. So they dumped her off here. And Doris Addington died here. She was 81 years old.
She lived almost her whole entire life.
Yes, and she became, when she got here, she started helping to cook. The day she died, till she couldn't do it anymore, she was the cook here. People come here when they're over here ghost hunting, and they leave her flowers, they leave a little bit of money. And right here is a picture of Doris Addington before she passed away. She could have left at any time when she got older, but that's her. She died here.